Hello, I'm Linda McIntosh from Studio ABC for my Facebook group, art group, and my YouTube channel are under the same name. Notice that the C is spelled S-E-E because we see the art. But most of my students call me Miss Mac. This is part 4 of Elements of Art, specifically shape is what we're focusing on today. In part 4, we're going to use what you learn about Mondrian and Matisse to create a work that's a combination of both of their styles. I like to do a little bit of a review in no particular order. I may have them in a different order every time I put them up, Elements of Art, but they are value, line, shape, form, texture, color, and space. We've already covered some information in parts 1, 2, and 3 on line and space. We will focus on the element of art called shape today. You have all known about shapes since kindergarten or before, but we're going to take that a little bit further. In this series about elements of art, I refer to elements of art as your toolbox. It's your toolbox for building. You use building tools to build a house, similar to the way you use elements of art to create principles of design in an art composition. And you need certain materials to build a house. You need certain tools to build principles of design. We haven't covered principles of design yet, and we will get to that as soon as we finish elements of art. In today's lesson, we're going to focus on geometric shapes and organic shapes. And we're going to see examples of those by two French artists. One is named Mondrian, and the other one is Matisse. We're also going to make your own art by borrowing inspiration from these master artists. If you're one of my students, you need to pause the video and copy the art vocabulary into the art vocabulary section of your art journal. You will hear these words someplace in this video, and I want you to have at least a small understanding of what they mean before you hear them. So pause here and then return when you're finished to watch the rest of the video. We've already mentioned that shape is an element of art. In this presentation, we're going to focus on organic shapes and on geometric shapes that we pull from nature. Organic shapes are those shapes that we pull from nature. They're rounded edges most of the time. They have free-form shapes with uneven, irregular edges. They really don't have specific names. Yes, we could name some of them like birds and butterflies, but each time we made them, they would be a little bit different. And so they don't have specific names like the geometric shapes do. They're just natural shapes taken from trees and birds and butterflies and all kinds of animals and even blobs. On the other hand, geometric shapes appear to be man-made. They are precise and mathematical and look like a ruler or a pattern of some sort was used to make them. Geometric shapes, art is often related to math, and these geometric shapes, including circles, triangles, squares, rectangles, polygons, hexagons, and other shapes, are specific mathematical shapes. Have you ever heard of a subject called geometry? Well, that's where we get the word geometric for our shapes in art. Geometry is a study of shapes in mathematics. There are also static and dynamic shapes. On the left, you see shapes just placed side by side. They don't look like they have any action. But the dynamic shapes on the right look like they're falling. It's all in the placement, where you place your shapes. Shapes that show movement are dynamic shapes, while a shape that looks like it's fixed and just sitting still is a static shape. Which one do you enjoy the most? Can you identify the static shape here and the dynamic shape? There's a place for both of these in art. It just depends on what you're trying to portray. Chances are you've seen paintings like this, and Mondrian used static primary colored geometric shapes to create balance and rhythm. His paintings created harmony and balance with the straight lines that he made out of primary colors, the red, yellow, and blue. And he did a number of these red, yellow, and blue flat type paintings. But if you look closely at this one, there's some dynamics to it. It's not just static. There is overlapping that creates movement. So study this one and then take a look at this. He did not do any overlapping, and his shapes all remained static in this painting. He did a few what he called boogie-woogie paintings because he liked boogie-woogie music. Mondrian liked to dance. A lot of people don't realize that. And so when it was almost time for the end of World War II, in anticipation of that happening and him dancing when it happened, he did this called Victory Boogie-Woogie. Unfortunately, he passed away before he finished it. Does this look complete to you? Do you see any areas that look like they need work? There are probably hundreds of these paintings that he did, but which one do you like best? Do you like the dynamic or the static painting? Let's look at another French artist named Henri Matisse. He was ill for a great part of his life, and he often was bedridden. He even was in a wheelchair, and when he was still painting, he strapped very long brushes to his arms so he could reach gigantic paintings to finish them. Like most of the master artists, they began with one style of painting or making art, and this applies to Mondrian also. And then they developed something that was kind of specifically their own style. They might have gone from realistic to abstract. Mondrian had scissor paintings of plants, animals, figures, and shapes that remain very famous today. The way he made these was he would take a white piece of paper and he would paint it with a specific kind of paint called gouache. That's Gouache, gouache. He would let these papers dry, and then he would use scissors to cut out all these organic shapes and glue them down to a base. He would arrange them on a base and then glue them down. This method was dubbed scissor painting. They said that even when he was bedridden and very ill and old, he still kept his scissors with him and cut out all of the little organic shapes. Here's another example of his work. During his lifetime, he did all kinds of other artwork, such as printmaking and sculpture. Look at this scissor painting. Do you think it's geometric or organic? Okay, students, this is an area where you may want to come back and pause because it's your assignment. You're going to do artwork based on Mondrian and Matisse together. You don't have to make it look exactly like their work. You just need to draw inspiration from them. Here are some supplies that you might need together. You might use part of them. You might use all of them. It depends on how you approach the assignment. So with a colored pencil or marker, let Mondrian's geometric shapes inspire you to break up the background of your paper, just like Mondrian did with his rectangles and squares and primary color lines. You can use squares and rectangles if you want to, but I want you to put your own little flair into it, your own creativity. That means do something a little different from what the artist did. I mentioned in your supplies you might use colored pencils or markers, but you might also want to use watercolors or oil pastels if you have those. Once the background is dry, if you happen to be using paint, you need to cut organic shapes in the style of Matisse from painted paper to glue over the geometric art. You're going to make your own painted paper, or if available, recycle some past paintings. And you just cut organic shapes the same way that Matisse did. The next step is to arrange the shapes on top of your Mondrian drawing, and then glue them down to the top of the Mondrian-inspired drawing. You're getting the benefit of two artist inspirations in one work of art. If you're one of my students, don't forget to write on the back your last name, first name, class number, and period that you have art. Also, note this hint. Do you want your art to stand out? Consider using dynamic shapes as explained in the video about static and dynamic shapes. It'll make your art stand out. You don't have to do it, but you can do it if you want. Here's some student work for you to get some ideas. This student broke up the background with triangles and added black painted organic forms on top. The forms were glued down to the background paper. Another student broke up the background space with circles and glued blue organic forms to the top. And yet another student broke up his background with triangles and glued violet organic forms on top of the triangles. If you love art, consider subscribing to this channel. If you give me a thumbs up, it helps other people have the benefit of seeing this video and learning from it. I'd appreciate it. Good luck with your project, and thank you for watching.